Welcome, my luxurious writers, and with it being World Book Day, I thought I would compile a brief list of essential books for us lovely screenwriters. Now, the format of this is going to be a little bit different from the other videos. It's going to be a little bit rough and ready because, well, it just is. And if you hear a funny noise, then don't worry, I'm not ready for a hip replacement just yet. It's actually a rather squeaky office chair that I didn't realise was actually quite so squeaky. Okay, so really the main thing to do if you are learning to write is read books on writing. And there are plenty of books out there, whether it be Sid Field or David Howard or Ronald Wolfe or whoever. There's no wrong book and there's no perfect book. And any time you spend reading books in relation to the craft, it is never wasted. And my advice really is to just keep on reading them, not just once, but every year. 2 years, the same books. If you like a book, keep on reading it, because eventually you will read something in it that you need to hear at the time that you need to hear it, if that sort of makes sense. And sometimes just reading a book once, even a brilliant book, you don't always get the gems out of it because you're just not ready to hear those gems. Okay, so the first book that I'm going to recommend is Stein on writing. Now, I've actually had this book on the shelf for many years, and Sol is he's a tour de force with such experience in editing and writing. You can't help but be impressed with this. It really is pretty astonishing. It's not technically a screenwriting book, but the advice is relatable, and it goes into great detail about editing for impact and how to use the written word. Why is this kind of important to screenwriters and not just novelists? Well, because you're still conveying action, dialogue and mood and pace, etc. To effectively a reader. So it is the same advice. And I think the last time I read this, I actually tried looking at taking out the stuff that sort of wasn't going to be relevant for scripts. And there's very little. So it's not directly for screenwriters, but certainly worth a read. The next up on the list, Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces. Now, it's a book that goes into great depth and detail about the role of the hero and antagonist in mythology, religion and storytelling, etc. It's so detailed. I mean, I can't even begin to explain here how much work has gone in. It's like a life's work. It really is just spine-shuddering how much effort Joseph's gone into in compiling this work. And it's not necessarily the easiest read, if I'm honest, because it is so detailed, but it's a really good way to understand the complexity and depth in characters that you need, and importantly how deep-rooted motivations need to be in those characters. Next up is The Screenwriter's Bible by David A Trottier. Now, this is one of the first books I bought on screenwriting, and it's really just a no BS guide to the various elements of the craft. However, it's with regard to script formatting advice where this book really excels. When it comes to formatting screenplays, there's loads of confusion and contradiction, and a lot of people are making the mistake of formatting spec scripts to look like shooting scripts, which I'll probably cover in more detail in another video. But this book is essential as it really gives some solid suggestions on how to deal with the likes of flashbacks, montages, transitions, and all the technical doodahs that you're going to need to know along the way of creating your fabulous screenplay. As for the other books on this list, you can get away with those being ebook versions, although personally I wouldn't want to. However, if you're starting out, this book needs to be in easy reach of your writing desk. Last and by no means least is Robert McKee's story, and I confess that I only read this recently, in fact within a few weeks, as I always resisted it. When I was at film school, Robert was loved by some and hated by others. He was a very divisive figure, and I kind of avoided the debate by just simply not reading the book. What he seemed to do in many people's eyes was to be the epitome of standardization of writing, as if you could strip away all the personal stuff and bottle the magic. All this by someone who wasn't a writer themselves. I would put my hands up, in fact I have my hands up right now, and say actually I made a big mistake and that I was wrong, because I should have read this book a long time ago. I think it is superb. It's easy to follow. It's really clear on the importance of structure and character and so much more. And ironically, the sort of magic of McKee's book is in the fact that it is so well written. So some of the comments about him or criticising him for not being a writer and yet selling kind of writing tutorials is just dissolved and irrelevant in my opinion, because the book that he did write is very well written. Some of the older movie references will be a little bit lost on a younger reader. However, just go and watch the movies anyway. They're all classics, and what's the worst that's going to happen? Okay, that's it. It's not an exclusive list by any stretch of the imagination. I'll probably come back and revisit it. But as I say, these 4 books, if you are serious about screenwriting, you need to read or have read these books. And also, I would say, read and read again. If you've got any books that you think are worth a read, then please stick a suggestion in the comments section below. It's always good to hear from you. Please support the channel by taking the time to like and subscribe, and I will see you this time, and you will see me rather than just hearing me in the next video. In the meantime, enjoy World Book Day. It means a lot. Spread the word and get people reading. And of course, we have to create the content that people are going to be taking off the shelves.